Hello, everyone. I am so glad that you're here. Please let me know if you're able to hear me in the chat. Just let me know so that I know that everything is working properly before we get started. And I'm going to go ahead here and start right on time, and others can join as they come in. And as you're coming in the room here, go ahead and drop in the chat a hello and let us know where you're joining from today. I always love seeing where everyone is coming from, and I know that we're going to have a great group of people joining us here today. I see we have confirmation that you can hear me. Thank you very much. Hi, Laura from California. Glad that you're here. We have someone else from Santa Monica and someone from New York. Wonderful. I love seeing people from all over the world here. And before we dive in, I want to invite you to really be here for the session today. If you can, close the other tabs on your computer, put your phone on silent, and give yourself this time because your love life matters. Your heart matters. And I'm going to be walking you through some things today that you're not going to get just by half listening. These smaller groups are actually my favorite because this is where we can make this much more real and interactive. So I want you to treat this session today less like a webinar and more like a working session. Here's what we're going to do together today. I'm not here to give you more advice or more things to try. I'm here to help you see something that likely has been right in front of you the entire time, but you haven't been able to fully see it yet. And so if you're here, you're not someone who's just casually dating. You're someone who actually really wants a real relationship. You care about growth. You've done the inner work. You've reflected, you understand yourself, and that's exactly why this feels so frustrating, because at a certain point, it stops making sense. You meet someone with potential, there's connection, and then somehow it either fades or unravels or just never becomes what you thought it could be. And you're left thinking, what am I missing? Why is this so hard? And really, it's not for lack of effort. It's not for lack of awareness. And here's what I want to offer you today. It's not that nothing is happening. It's not that nothing is changing for you. It's that the part that actually would change everything is still invisible for you. And so for those who have just joined us, feel free to say hi in the chat and let us know where you're joining from today. Since we're a smaller group, this is going to be much more interactive and personal, which is my favorite way to do this. So I'm going to invite you to engage in the chat as much as you feel comfortable. And I'm also going to guide you if you're not sure what to share. And so before we go further, I would love to hear from you. Let me know in the chat, are you currently dating someone or not dating right now? We have Jessica saying that you're single, which I imagine means that you are not dating someone in a relationship, but are you actually going on some dates here and there? Are you looking to date someone? Are you available to date someone? And it's just not happening. Let me know a little bit, give me a little more clarity about what's happening there. Laura says nothing is happening, it sounds like. And we have someone, TT, I'm going to call you TT since your name is TT's iPhone. So I'm going to call you TT. You've just opened yourself up to dating again. I get that. So I see a mix here of where people are at. And some of you are available to be dating. Maybe some of you have taken a step back, and maybe some of you are somewhere in between. And I'm glad that you're here because what we're going to be talking about today applies to all of these situations. And I'm going to be taking pauses at a few points during our session today to read what you're sharing in the chat. And so if I don't respond right away, I'm going to come back to it. And as well, I'm also checking the wait room periodically to let others in who might just be coming in a bit late. And so if you see me looking around my screen, that's likely what I'm doing here. By the end of our time together today, you're going to start to see why things have been repeating. And even maybe your pattern is nothing is happening, and that's what keeps repeating. What's actually driving your experience in love, that's where you're going to start to see. And what needs to shift in order for something different to happen. So I want to say this up front. This is not going to be about giving you more insights. Most of you already have plenty of that. Instead, this conversation is about something much more specific. It's about seeing what's actually happening in the moments that matter. So let's start by making this real for you, not in theory, but in your actual lived experience. Think about the last time that you really felt drawn to someone, not someone that you just felt fine about, but someone where there was truly something there: attraction, curiosity, interest. And what do you think created that attraction for you? What did you feel around that person? Just put a word or two in the chat that lets us know what you felt or what created the attraction. Let me know what you felt around this person, how you felt around them, or what created the attraction. TT, you felt excitement. And Jessica, you felt sparks, you felt chemistry. Yes, right? Maybe some people felt more alive. I see Laura, you felt warmth and care. Yes, right? That's the things that have us lean in and want more connection with someone. We feel more excited about the possibility, right? Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of those types of answers. Good, so stay with that. Now let's look at what happened next. Did it actually develop into something that you wanted? Or did something start to feel off? Maybe, for example, they pulled away. Maybe you started to feel unsure. Maybe something happened. Maybe it just didn't go anywhere and it started to fizzle out. So notice what happened in the experience that caused it to stall out or not become what you wanted. And let us know in the chat what happened there. And if you can zoom out for a moment, ask yourself, does this experience, this pattern, feel familiar? Like you've been here before. This isn't the first time this type of thing has happened. Am I right? You've been here before. Jessica, you said that your boundaries were disrespected and he was the taker and you were the giver. I see that pattern so much. And Laura, it was great because it broke the unavailability pattern. Okay, so it broke your previous pattern. And then that makes me wonder what happened next. Why didn't it work out? Why are you not still with that person? Jessica, right. It's not just you that has that pattern. You're not alone. I see so many singles with that exact pattern that the other person was the taker and you were the giver. It's a very common pattern. We want to start to see this from the perspective of your pattern. Like things are happening, but you're not clear how they keep happening. The same story, different person. Same result, even if it's a different person, right? So let me show you an example of what I mean. I had a client who went to an event, and at the end of the night, a man offered to walk her to her car. And she said, no, thank you. She declined. And then later, she felt disappointed that he didn't offer again. Her takeaway was this: well, I guess he's just not that interested in me. And so maybe this is God protecting me from getting involved with someone who isn't right for me. Have you ever felt something like that or thought something like that? I hear that from so many singles that that's their takeaway. Oh, this is God's protection. But here's what was actually happening. A man showed up, he offered support, and she rejected it. Not because she didn't want connection, but because instead she had an unspoken rule If he was really interested in me, he would insist. And so she missed an opportunity that could have created connection. And instead, she shut connection down. But here's where it gets even deeper. When we looked underneath this experience, we saw she had a belief that men weren't truly interested in her. And so she was unconsciously testing men to see whether they would prove their interest. But these kinds of tests don't create love, they block love. And so I'm wondering where you might do something like this. Where do you want something in a relationship, but the way that you show up actually pushes it away? I see that happen a lot with singles where they want love, but they push it away. Here's another example. I worked with a client who was dating someone he genuinely liked, but every time they spent time together, the conversations felt draining. So his conclusion was, this probably just isn't the right fit for me. I need to learn when to walk away. So that was his takeaway from the experience. I need to learn when to walk away. But when I spoke with him about this, we started to see something different was going on. He actually wanted depth in a relationship. He wanted real connection, but he had never said that. And so he wasn't actually showing up in the relationship or bringing depth himself. He was waiting for her to do that. He was waiting for the relationship to just magically become what he wanted it to be without him actually being responsible to create it himself. And so he was about to leave a situation, even though he hadn't actually fully shown up for that relationship yet. He didn't even know what was possible in that relationship, and he was about to end it, even though he really liked her. So when we looked deeper, even deeper, we saw that he wasn't having meaningful, honest conversations because he was afraid if he was vulnerable and truly authentic, that a woman would turn him down. He feared a woman wouldn't want him. And so he was hiding his true self. And so I'm curious, where might you be doing this? Where are you deciding that something isn't right without even fully showing up in a way that would actually create what you want? And notice what the underlying assumptions are that might be even deeper that are causing you to behave that way. And if you're seeing yourself in anything that I'm sharing here, let us know in the chat. Because I've done this too. It's not just you. I've done this too. For me, my pattern was this. The men that I liked, I would pull away from. The ones that I didn't like, I would stay too long. And when I did the Calling in the One program, I realized that both of these choices that I was unconsciously making, that felt like they were out of my control, were due to a core false belief that the men I liked didn't want me. And so I was eventually then able to see that I had created the entire dynamic with men without even realizing it. And so in Calling in the One, we call these false inner beliefs your false love identity because it becomes a sense of self. It starts to feel in your body, it starts to feel this is just who I am. This is just what's possible for me. This is just the way things are. And this is what makes up this false limiting belief that you might have about yourself, or false beliefs that you have about men or women and how they feel about being in relationship with you. These are your false limiting beliefs that you have about what's possible for you in love. And so for me, that was the belief that men didn't want me. And so again, I'm wondering, where is this happening for you? Let me know in the chat. What are you able to see about yourself? What can you relate to in these stories that I'm sharing? And here's what all of these stories have in common. It's not that nothing is happening. It's what is actually happening is not what you think is happening. And because of that, you're learning the wrong lessons from your dating experiences. And so instead of something changing, the same pattern keeps repeating with the next person. And here's the part that's really important. You can't change something that you can't even fully see yet. You can't change something that you can't fully see. Let's see what you're putting in the chat here. Jessica says you always felt the need to be a size 0 in jeans and a dress to secure a man, but unfortunately you're a plus size and a little bit overweight and an Afro-Latina with red hair and freckles. How beautiful, Jessica. Right? And so that is a false assumption, though, about what it takes to have love. And it's not the truth. It feels that way. I'm sure it feels that way. And you might even have a lot of evidence that that's what it takes, but it's not true. That's the good news. So even if you're seeing a small piece of yourself in what I just looked at, then here's the real question. Why hasn't this changed yet then? It hasn't changed because most conscious, self-aware people believe something like this. If I understood myself better, if I do my inner work, if I grow, if I'm a good person, then my relationships will naturally change. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Of course, you would think that. But here's what I've seen over and over again. Insight alone does not change your relationships. You can have profound insights 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not change your love life. Isn't that a powerful realization? You can understand your patterns and still repeat them. You can know exactly what you want and still choose someone that is not a good match for you. You can feel ready for love and still create more of the same experiences that you don't want. And this is where it gets confusing. Because from the outside, it looks like you've done everything right. You're aware, you're intentional, you're trying, you're a good person, and yet nothing has actually changed. Am I right? Is that what it feels like? Let me know in the chat. And so it starts to feel like maybe this just isn't going to happen for me. Or maybe I just haven't met my person yet. Or maybe it's just not my time yet. Or maybe I live in the wrong place. Or maybe, but none of these are actually the real issue. None of these are actually the truth. The gap is this. Relationships don't change at the level of insights. They change in how you show up in real-time connection. In the moment when someone says something, in the moment when you feel attraction, in the moment when you feel uncertainty, in the moment when you want to pull away, that's where the pattern is happening, in the moment, not later, not when you reflect on it, not when you journal about it. By that time, the pattern has already played out. It's already too late, and the pattern has happened. And that's why you can look back on a situation after it's happened and see, oh, I see what I did there, right? Have you ever been in that experience yourself? But in the moment, it didn't feel like a pattern. It felt like reality. It felt like this is What's really happening here when your false love identity is activated? Remember, the false love identity is the core false beliefs that you have about yourself, men or women, and your possibility for love. And so when the false love identity is activated, it feels like truth. It feels urgent. It feels like I have to take action now, and I have to call that person and give them a piece of my mind. For example, right? That's what it feels like in that moment. It feels like that's just how things are for you, and you have to take action on it. It feels like I can't let them know how much I like them because then they'll pull away or they're going to break up with me anyway. So I should just break up with them first. Or I can't date that person because what if what if they found out who I really am? Then they would reject me and that would be so painful. And so the false love identity causes us to make actions in the moments that are not aligned with what we desire to have in love. And it can feel like truth. It can truly feel like they're pulling away. They're not interested. Something is off here. But what's actually happening is that your pattern is shaping the entire experience. And so it's a little bit like fish out of water. A fish in water, actually, is what I meant to say. In a fish tank, for example, right? A fish doesn't realize that it's in water. It just thinks this is how things are. This is the way things always are. This is the only reality that's possible. But what's happening is that you're inside your own pattern and you don't see it. You just think that's the only thing possible. That's the only reality there is. And you experience it as truth. You experience it as the only reality possible. And from inside that, everything that you do makes sense. Everything that you're doing makes sense. And that's why even really smart, self-aware people stay stuck here for years. Not because you're not trying, not because you're not growing, but because you can't fully see the pattern when you're inside of the pattern. The fish doesn't realize that it's in water when it's in water. And if you could see it clearly, it would have already changed. If you could see it clearly, it would have already changed. Let me know in the chat if this is landing for you in some way. Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that. All right. So if you can't fully see your own pattern from inside of it, then trying to change this on your own gets really frustrating really fast. Are you frustrated a bit? Let me know if you relate to that. Because what happens is you can't see your own blind spots. And so you draw conclusions about what happened. And those conclusions feel true, but the conclusions are coming from inside your own pattern. And so then what happens? You go into the next interaction with the same perspective, possibly even more jaded than before. And yet you have the same expectations and the same reactions. And so unknowingly, you're recreating the same experience again. And this is why it doesn't change on its own. And so then the good question, a really good question becomes, well, what actually does change this then? So what I've seen over and over again is this. Extraordinary love doesn't happen by accident. It happens when inner alignment meets real outer world action in the real world. These two things have to come together. Extraordinary love doesn't happen by accident. It happens when inner alignment meets real action in the outer world. Now, what I mean when I say alignment, I don't just mean being positive. I don't just mean having a good mindset. Instead, I mean your inner awareness, your clarity, your intention, your decisions, your choices, and being centered in your true, authentic value and your worth, where you know that you are worthy to love and be loved. And you know that there is a great person out there who wants you just as much as you want them. So inner alignment is all of these things. And by action, I'm referring to how you show up in the world, what you say, who you choose, who you don't choose, what you say yes to, what you say no to, how you respond in real time. And the action also includes more subtle things that you might not have thought of, such as your body language, your facial expressions, your tone of voice, how you carry yourself. What makes you really, truly available for love is all of these things, right? And so most people are doing one of these two things, right? I'm talking about two things here. I'm talking about inner alignment and I'm talking about action in the real world. So most people are doing one without the other. Some people are focusing on inner alignment, doing their own inner work, getting into their worth and getting centered in their value and getting clarity about what they want in love. So some people are doing the inner alignment piece and other people are fully focusing on the outer action in the real world, right? These people, right? They're going on dates, they're going to speed date events, but yet they're doing all of this from unconscious patterns and unconscious false beliefs and insecurities, right? So the people who are doing the inner work, they're aware, they're reflective and thoughtful, but they're not translating that into how they show up on a date. They're not translating that into how they show up out in the real world with people. The people who are going on all the dates, instead, they're floundering a bit because it's very hard to see their own inner blind spots and they don't realize how they're showing up to other people. And they're still stuck in their false unconscious beliefs and insecurities. And so, either way, no matter whether this person is focused on the inner alignment piece or the outer action piece, nothing fundamentally changes because the pattern actually works like this. Something happens on a date, something happens, and you make meaning of it. And that meaning then shapes your behavior, and that behavior creates the result, right? So it's a sequence that I'm laying out for you, the way that the pattern keeps happening. It happens because something happens, you make an assumption about that, and then your assumption affects your behavior and your choices and what you do next. And then that choice that you made, the way that you acted, affects what happens next. So if the meaning, right, that's what the bookends here are something happens and then you have the outer results. These are the bookends. And I'm talking about a sequence of things that happen. So the bookends, if the meaning doesn't change, then your actions won't change and then your results won't change, right? So this is the sequence of how the pattern happens. Are you tracking what I'm saying? Does it make some sense, what I'm saying? Let me know in the chat. Thank you, Jessica, for giving me the thumbs up. It makes sense. So let me show you what it looks like in real life. I worked with my client who believed that men weren't really interested in her. And she thought if someone was truly interested, they had to prove it. And so that belief affected her actions because it would cause her That belief would cause her to hold back and unconsciously test the man or not make herself available for connection. And she would wait for the other person to prove that they were interested. But what she didn't see was that she was not allowing connection to build. She was blocking it. So her false assumption was influencing her actions, which then created her results. So first, we had to unravel that her false love identity, the assumptions that she had about what was happening. We had to shift her to get her truly centered in her true love identity, her true authentic value. And then we had to look at how that would affect her choices and her actions in the real world so that she could start to recognize that in real time when it was happening out on dates, so that she was then showing up on the dates centered in her worth. And then she would make a different choice that would be naturally aligned with her true love identity, which then caused her to start allowing herself to receive the connection and to receive the support. And she didn't need to engage with men in a way where she was trying to prove her value, that she was worthy to be chosen. And so suddenly, the same types of interactions started to create deeply different experiences for her. It was the same dating pool of men, but she started getting a different result where men started responding to her differently, showing up, wanting to connect with her, wanting to see her, wanting to go on dates with her, wanting to have a meaningful connection. And it started with her going back to the beginning where she was truly centered in her true love identity, and that influenced her actions to be different, which then influenced her to get different results. The other client, the man who was about to walk away from someone he actually liked because he thought it wasn't deep enough. But what he realized when we looked at it deeper is that he was holding himself back out of fear that a woman didn't want him, that he would be rejected if he showed up as his true self. And so what I was able to help him shift was that belief that he wasn't wanted, that a woman wouldn't want him and would reject him, so that he was then truly centered in his value. And it allowed him to start to show up differently, to be honest, direct and real and available, authentic. And that's what allowed the relationship to shift. Not because he found someone new, it was the same woman. It was the same woman, but because he showed up differently. And so this is why dating gets so frustrating for singles, because they don't realize how they're playing out and creating the experience that they don't want. And do you see how specific this is? It's not just about doing inner work, and it's not just about taking more actions. I'm sure that you've tried both of those approaches, probably even. And here's what it is, though. It's about being able to actually see what's happening and to see the meaning that you're making about the situation and shift it in the moment as it's happening, not later in your journal, not later after the date. In the moment is where we have to see what's happening and to be able to show up in a new way. And so think about your last dating experience. What happened? And what did you make that mean about yourself? Remember, I said, why didn't it work out? Where did it start to go wrong? And notice what you made that mean about yourself. What did you make it mean about men or women and how they feel about being in relationship with you? What did you make it mean about your possibility for having great love? Let us know in the chat. Maybe, for example, you made it mean, oh, they're not that interested in me. Maybe you made it mean, see, I never get what I want. Love just isn't possible for me. What did you make it mean when you had the experience that maybe someone rejected you? Maybe you made that mean love isn't possible for me and I'm not wanted. I'm not good enough. What did you make it mean when things started to feel a little unsure and you didn't know what was possible? I see Jessica says that you've been ghosted time after time and it caused you to overlook your worth as a person, period. Exactly, Jessica. That's the kind of thing that many singles are dealing with, right? Something happens and you make an assumption about what this means for yourself and about your value as a person. Exactly. And so, what would it have looked like to respond differently if you were truly centered in your value, in your in the truth of your worthiness to love and be loved? How might you have responded differently to that situation in a way that would have kept you on track to meeting your person, rather than getting taken off track? Because every time we get taken off track, even if it's just that someone ghosted us and they decided we weren't a good match, and we want to stay on the path to manifesting our person, to attracting love. And so it's important to be able to shift back into our value no matter what's happening. So you might, for example, see that in the moment, if we're truly centered in our value, you might show up more honest, more open, more available for love, less guarded, right? Because what happens is when singles have a disappointing experience, they close their heart. They start to trust less. They start to make themselves less available. They start to feel more jaded. They start to expect more unhappy experiences. And then that leads to even more unhappy experiences, right? And let's see. So TT says that you chose someone who wasn't a fit for you, and you're not sure what that means. Maybe represents your belief that you're not being able to find someone right for you. Possibly. Or also what I see sometimes, I mean, there's many ways that I can read what happens there. And I'd have to work with you deeper, really, to understand your situation. But it could be that we're choosing people that are wrong for us because we don't think we deserve better. It could be that we chose someone that wasn't a good match and we overlooked red flags because we thought we didn't deserve better. We thought it was too hard to find something good and this is the best we can get. So we overlooked the red flags and we said, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Or maybe a red flag came up and we didn't address it because we didn't want to rock the boat. See, there's all these things that are happening that are so subtle that cause us to make choices that don't align with what we truly want. And here's the thing. This is the part that matters. Most people cannot do this consistently on their own because in the moment, your pattern feels like the truth. It feels like just the way things are for you. This is just the way the dating culture is right now. People ghost all the time, and I just have to deal with this, for example, right? And so, without support, without real time awareness, without someone helping you see what's actually happening and helping you see your blind spots, you fall right back into the same way of relating, into the same assumptions, into overlooking the red flags again. And so the question becomes, well, what actually does support you to shift this then and to see it and to show up in a way that's truly aligned with your desire for love and truly aligned with your value? What helps you shift it differently in the moment when it's happening? Because remember, you can't fully see your own pattern when you're inside of it. It's like you're the fish in the fishbowl, and we can't see it when you're in it. And so inside alone isn't changing it. So then what actually does change it? Right? So now you can start to feel this, right? What actually does change it then? And so that's what's been happening in your love life. It isn't random. And it's not just about finding the right person, even. It's not about going on more dates to meet someone who's better aligned for you. Instead, it's about how you're showing up in the moments that matter. And here's the part that's very hard to do on your own. You can't see your blind spots while they're happening, not fully. You don't catch the meaning that you're making in real time because it feels true. And you don't see the moment where you overwrite it or you pull back because you're too close to it, right? You choose something that isn't actually aligned with you. These are the choices that you're making when you're in the pattern. And then after the fact, you make sense of what happened. And this is why you can go on date after date or even relationship after relationship and still feel like nothing has truly changed. And that's the part that gets so discouraging that makes you want to give up. Am I right? I see so many singles that say, I've just decided to give up. I'm going to do other things. I'm going to focus on other things in my life. But when does this start to shift? It shifts when you begin to notice things as they're happening. You catch the moment where you could normally shut down and instead you choose to stay open. You notice what you're making something mean, and instead of reacting from that meaning, you choose something different. And those are the small moments where everything changes. And that's also why this is very difficult to do on your own, because inside of your own pattern, you don't have someone reflecting back what you can't see. You don't have the support in those real-time moments where the pattern is actually happening. And that's not a flaw. It's just how human beings work. It's just how being human works. And so if you're sitting here right now and you're seeing yourself in this, then the real question becomes, are you going to keep trying to figure this out on your own? Or are you actually ready to change it? That's the real question here. That's the real question here. Are you going to keep spinning your wheels, trying to figure this out on your own, or are you going to actually change it? So I want to shift gears here for a moment because this is where you get to decide what you're actually going to do with what you just saw here. So I want to walk you through this for a minute. I'm going to do a screen share here about my upcoming 8-week Calling in the One program. So let me show you what this is. So this is the page where you can see what the Calling in the One program is. And so when I'm going to put a link in the chat for you soon where you can come and see the page here. It's an 8-week group coaching experience to break your patterns in love and finally attract aligned partnership. And so this will be a small group limited to just 10 people maximum. So there is space for lots of personal support. And I'm not going to read all of this. You can come and read the page when I share the link with you in a moment. But this is who the program is for. It's for conscious, heart-centered singles who are done with understanding their patterns and are ready to actually shift them at the root in real time. Some people come into the program already having done years of work on themselves, and others come knowing that they're ready for something different. They're ready for guidance and structure and a path forward. And if you've done the inner work, but you're still seeing the same patterns in your love life, if you've been meeting people and you are still experiencing the same patterns, if you're really ready to really see something different and ready to really experience something different in your love life, then this is for you. Calling in the One has already supported hundreds of thousands of people around the world to transform their relationships patterns. And this is not just another dating program. What makes this different is that you're not just learning concepts. This is a space where you actually apply the work in your real relationships while things are happening. And here's what's included in the 8-week experience. We meet weekly on Wednesdays, starting next Wednesday, April 29th at 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. There are also 2 additional Saturday sessions, especially supportive for those who are maybe living in other parts of the world. And then we also have a private online community space where you can connect with your other participants in the program and receive ongoing support from me to get your questions answered, even in between the sessions. And so let's talk about how this works. Each week, we're working with exactly what we've been talking about here today. You're seeing your patterns and you're shifting them at the core, at the root, and you're seeing what you've been making these situations mean about your possibility for having love. And then you're looking at how to shift that meaning, how to really look at shifting that false love identity so that you're dating from your true love identity and you're really centered in your value. We're also looking at 3 other major inner love blocks, and we're releasing those so that you're fully free and available for true, authentic love coming your way. And you're not doing this alone. You're bringing real situations, dates, conversations that you're having in your life with friends, family, coworkers. And we're really looking at how to shift the relational dynamics that you're experiencing so that you're truly, really available for love. We're also growing some relationship skills here so that, again, once the person comes into your life, you're able to actually create something that works. You're able to really hold space for true love to come into your life and have it be a meaningful connection rather than sabotage it. And so this is where people start to notice that they're choosing differently and they're creating completely different experiences in their relationships. And then after the 8-week program, I have a few other ways that I'm going to be supporting you with some special bonuses. And so the 4 soulmate indicators is a special training to help you meet your person faster by helping you evaluate your dating partners so that you know who to invest your time and your heart and your energy with. And this is going to prevent you from getting involved with people who are totally the wrong ones and getting too attached to those people and then feeling disappointed when it doesn't work out. This is how you meet your person faster. And then I have this special bonus about supporting you to create an online dating profile. And this is where I support you to take the inner shifts that you've been working on in the 8-week program and translate them into how you show up from the very first interaction that you're having online, so that you're not unknowingly repeating the same patterns that you've experienced in your past. And I also want to say that this bonus expires today at midnight. So if you're interested in joining the program, I would encourage you to get signed up today so that you can get this special bonus. And this is for you if, let's see, where did I put that section? This is for you. I just wanted to point that out. I went too quickly. You're in the right place. This is for you if you feel called to make love a real priority, not just something that you hope happens one day. This is for you if you want to break free from old patterns that keep repeating in your relationships. And if you're curious about how your thoughts, habits, and choices are shaping the love that you attract, this is for you. You're in the right place if you appreciate guidance, structure, and support with a small, intimate group of people. If you desire both inner transformation and practical steps that you can take out in the real world and having clarity about what actions those are, if you've been really confused about what actions What should I actually do to bring love into my life? This is for you because I'm going to be combining this inner transformation with the outer actions to take out in the world in a real practical way. You can also see some typical questions that people ask about the program here. And then also, you can come here and see the real stories and videos from people who have done the program with me, where they share their experiences. And what you'll notice in all of these stories here is that these people, they're not just saying, "Oh, I learned something," but instead they're sharing how their experiences in relationships has changed as a result of us working together. And so now for a limited time, you can join us for $497, which is 37% off of normal tuition. Normally, tuition for this program is $795. So you could save nearly $300 by signing up now. And also as well, there's this bonus that expires today, the dating profile training bonus. And so I would encourage you to make a choice and reserve your spot. And remember as well that there are only 10 spots in the program. It's limited to just 10 people because I want to keep this a small, intimate group so that there is plenty of space for personal support in the program. So I was going to put the link in the chat for you so that you can go and check out that information there. I also forgot to say that as well, I have a payment plan available. And so if you just click the link, reserve my spot, there are a few of those buttons on the page. And if you click that button, then you'll be taken to the checkout page where you'll enter your name and your details. And you can choose whether you want to do the pay in full program or whether you want to do a flexible payment plan. And that really makes the program a lot more available for those of you that want something like that. So if you're seeing yourself in this and you know that you don't want to keep doing this the same way, then this is the work that changes it. And if you feel like this is a fit, then I'd invite you to join us. And so I'm going to be leaving that link in the chat for those of you that are wanting to check that out. And this is not for everyone. This is for people who actually are ready to change how they show up in love. Not someday, not when it's more convenient, not when your life is better organized, but now, right? You're deserving of love now, even if your life isn't fully in place yet. And so if you're feeling inspired by the conversation today, if you're feeling intrigued, wow, I haven't heard this before, then I would trust that because that's normally your intuition that's leaning in and feeling pulled by something that's really interesting. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. We're going to go a lot deeper in our 8 weeks, right? This can actually change for you. So if you're feeling, wow, this is something that I need, then I would trust that and act on that. So let's open this up for questions. Go ahead and drop your questions for me in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to answer a few of the most common questions that people have when they're considering joining this program. Some people think, well, I've already done a lot of inner work. Is this program for me if I've already done a lot of inner work? And so here's the thing. A lot of people in this program have done a lot of inner work already, and some people are new to the program, as I mentioned. And that's actually who the program is for. Both people, whether you're new to the material or whether you've done a lot of inner work and you truly feel like you understand yourself. But really, the thing is that your patterns are still playing out. And so this is where that can finally start to translate into real change, no matter whether you're new to the work or whether you've done a lot of inner work. Because the reality is there's still something that hasn't shifted. Even if you've already done a lot of inner work, something still hasn't shifted. And that's what I'm going to help you see. Some people ask, what if I'm not currently dating? And that's fine. You don't need to be dating during the program. Some people come into the program as a way to prepare to date. And that's the perfect place to be if that's what you want to do, right? Because this isn't about getting on more dates. It's not, it's about instead what you're doing in your life. It's about how you relate to people. Many people experience that all of their relationships are improved as a result of this program. And the program will shift what you expect in your relationships, what you allow, what you don't allow, so that when you do meet someone, you're not starting from the same place that you were before. Instead, you've already evolved your ability to create happy, healthy relationships. And that's going to then carry over into the romantic relationship once you meet that person. And so some people are dating and some people are not when they do the program. And both are perfectly fine ways of doing the program. Other people ask, what if I try this and it doesn't work? And I get that. I get that skepticism because you've probably already tried a lot of things. And what I've seen is this, it's not about trying more things. It's not about trying harder or doing more. Instead, it's about finally seeing what you couldn't see before. And once you see it, it's actually very hard to go back to doing things the same way as you did before. And so I'm going to help you see a new way. I'm going to help you shift what you haven't been able to see before. Other people say, is this like therapy? And I'm going to say it's different than therapy because we're not just processing the past. Instead, we might be looking at the past, but we're really only doing that in service to understanding the meaning that we made and how that impacted your choices and where you could have made a different choice. And we're really looking at how we can apply that to the current moment, to what's happening right now, so that we can shift in the present moment. This is really a program about your future, about how do you create the future that you want? How can we be a stand for that future that you're committed to calling into your life? And so it's not like it's not therapy. And yet I have had many therapists that have worked with me. And I've had many people tell me that this program, a few weeks of this program, was more helpful than years of therapy. And that's because this program is so powerful at getting to the core of what's going on. We're getting to the root of your patterns and shifting them at that level. And I've had so many people say to me, Jennifer, you are like a laser. How did you see so clearly what I wasn't able to see? And how I feel like you know me in some ways better than I know myself. We're going to get to that root and shift it. And that's why this program is so powerful. So let me see what questions you've put in the chat for me. I'm going to scroll back through some of these things that you've been putting into the chat that I might have missed before. And so, Jessica, I'm scrolling back and I'm seeing that part of your pattern was that a lot of men were only physically attracted to you and you felt worthless for years. And I get that. I get that. And I would be imagining, though, that it's related to the assumptions that you have about men and what they're attracted to, right? So it relates to also your belief that you need to be a certain size in order to be attractive, right? And then that causes you to show up in ways that are possibly, I'm imagining, Jessica, I haven't really spoken with you before, right? So I might be reading things that aren't right, but I see a lot of women who think that men are only looking for a certain image then those women are very focused on their image and they're really featuring those aspects of themselves and not really allowing your true, authentic self to be seen, which then reinforces that men are wanting that type of image. Right? It's kind of like a cycle, a merry-go-round, a cycle where the pattern keeps repeating because you're showing up in a certain way that's attracting a certain type of attention and a certain type of men that are only interested in that rather than someone who's interested in something else. So we have to see what's really going on that's inspiring that whole dynamic. And it's very hard to see it when you're in it. Amber says you're currently dating someone who you like. Yay, Amber! I'm so happy to hear that from you. But there is a push-pull pattern, and if you express too much, sometimes it's not reciprocated. Okay, but we do enjoy time together, and I do feel like this time, I do feel like it's time to express my feelings and needs, but you're nervous to do so. Okay, Amber. Um, yes, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. I just want to make sure I have a full sense of some of the other comments that are here. And so, Jessica, you have some situations that in your living situation right now that cause you to feel unsure. It sounds like about doing the program right now. And so that's valid. I understand that things might be going on in our lives that make us unsure whether now is the time or not. And I also want to invite you to really consider, though, rather than, just dismissing it without considering it, ask where is that assumption coming from that now is not the right time? Is it that I don't, I'm not sure I would get results from this program, and so I've put up a protection against what might be possible? Or is it because really the situation isn't workable right now? Is it that you feel hesitant, because you're skeptical about whether this would work or not? I see that just happen so much, so I would just invite you to really get clear whether you're actually wanting change right now or you're just wanting relief from thinking about it. Those are different things. This internal honesty, that we need to kind of look at. Sometimes we really want something and we're scared that it won't happen. And so we put up a wall to keep it out because then we don't have to experience disappointment if we don't get what we want again. Right? So this internal way that we're looking at our reality really influences all the choices that we make. And so we have to kind of see, is this just more of my pattern coming up that's protecting me? Is this just more of the same way of reacting to what's going on? Right? And it could be as well that your situation truly isn't the right moment, right? I'm not saying that it is, but I think there needs to be like an internal reflection happening. What's my true reason? Is it that I'm scared? Is it that, I have something that really needs to be looked at instead? Jessica, you are really wanting change right now. Yeah. In the past, you had to adapt yourself physically for guys who didn't want anything more from you. Right, Jessica. I see that a lot. I see that a lot. This is part of your pattern and absolutely what we change in the program. Absolutely. So, Jessica, if you're really wanting change right now, then I promise you, no matter what your living situation is, there is a way to work around it, right? There's a way to, it's so many singles think that they need to do something else before it will be time for them, right? They need to lose weight. They need to get more finances in shape. They need to change their living situation and, be living out of their parents' home, and not be living in their parents' home because they can't date. I had one client who was living with her parents and she thought, oh, I can't meet a guy because I can't date because who would want to date me if I'm living with my parents? You know, we have all these assumptions about what it takes to be ready for love. And again, those are just assumptions. They're just part of your false belief. They're not reality. And so we have to really see, what does it really take to be ready for love? And if I truly want change now, then how could I create something in my life now so that even though I'm living at home, even though my finances are awful, even though I am not the weight that I want to be, even though I have a messy life, even though I don't have a job at the moment, even though I have this thing in my life, how can I still have love in my life? Because I promise you that the situation is not what needs to change. And when we're waiting for the right time to step up and make a decision that now is when I'm going to have love, life just passes us by. Time just passes us by. That's the only thing that happens. Because I promise you, I'm going to get Jessica, I don't know your situation, so I'm just making things up that are possible examples, right? So if I'm waiting until my finances are better, for example, who knows what's going to happen in the future, right? Maybe something else will happen that will cause us to then have another obstacle. You know, maybe in the future, then you have a health issue and then you haven't that to overcome. And then maybe you resolve the health issue and then a close family member passes away and then you're dealing with that. So all I'm saying here is that life happens for all of us. Life happens. And we have to get to a point where we're saying, yeah, life is happening and I'm still choosing love. Right? That's kind of the decision that has to happen, where we say, this is a choice point for me, and I'm choosing, despite this circumstance in my life, I'm still choosing love. Now, Amber, I'm going to come back. Hopefully that landed and offered you something valuable, Jessica, and anyone else here on the call who can relate to that, because I'm sure you're not the only one who is having that thought. Um, Thank you for letting me know, Jessica. So, Amber, I would love to come back to you, and I don't know. I'm gonna call Amber out here. I didn't. So Amber, I didn't let you know this, but if you're available to share on the call. I'm going to see if you're available. Sometimes, so I know Amber, right? Amber and I have worked together before. And Amber, so if you're available to talk, I would love for you to share a little bit about your experience, because you and I have actually worked together before with the Calling in the One program. And I love this update from you that you shared earlier that you're now dating someone that you really like. Now, of course, you did also share that there are some issues that you're having to work through, which is normal because that's what happens in relationships. And so I want you to share a little bit, first of all, what has shifted for you that allowed you to get into this dating experience with even someone you like before you talk about any challenges you're having. What has shifted that allowed you to find this person?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Jennifer, for everything. I think what shifted is my mindset about relationships and wanting to find happy, healthy love and keeping my heart open and staying hopeful about it and kind of prioritizing that in my life. And also just making changes in my life in general with regard to, friendships, work relationships, everything else in a positive direction. So that when I did meet someone, it would feel hopefully natural because I've already been kind of practicing who I want to show up as in relationship. Not that, not that I do it perfectly or even there's a lot to work on, but it has helped so much. Um,
Yes. Now, you said a few important things that I want to make more clear for people. So, first of all, you said that you were practicing with people in your life. So I remember when you were going through the Calling in the One program that you were actually practicing with coworkers, with little problems that you were having at work and with people in your life, and you were having those conversations with them so that then by the time you met someone, now you're feeling more comfortable to address some of the challenges that might be happening, right? Rather than
Right.
walking away or ignoring them. The other thing that you mentioned that I think people need to, I want to highlight here for people is that you didn't quite share, but you're a busy person, right? You're a single mom. You have a full-time job that takes a lot of your time, and you still chose to prioritize love, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember as well that there were times where you had to kind of manage the program around your busy work schedule, and that was sometimes a challenge, but you prioritized it and you made it work. So
Yes.
tell us now, so you've seen some things that are a little bit that you have some questions about in this dating experience, even though you like the man, right?
Yes.
And so you say a little bit more that you're seeing that you need to speak up a little more. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I have spoken up a little bit, and he has made changes, but there's still this pattern. So his communication, we've had to do a lot of, texting back and forth. He lives at a little bit of a distance. So there's that. And we both have busy schedules, but I have, asked him, to have more consistent communication because that has been a little bit of it. Like it's kind of been inconsistent and he has improved that, which I like. But there is, yeah, a push pull pattern I was mentioning. And I feel like when I start to express things and more so, via text, not necessarily in person so much. It's not always reciprocated. It could be something like, I miss seeing you. And then he doesn't say anything back to that, but he responds to other things. So
Yeah.
that is, I'm like, is that a red flag? And I do get a sense that maybe he is emotionally closed off a bit. So yeah,
Well,
so I'm just struggling with some of that a little bit. Like, how much do I open up? He also has been going through some family things that have been hard. He
mm,
lost a family member.
mm,
He's had other things going on. So, with family mainly. So, that's kind of made it hard to connect regularly. So, there's been some
yeah.
stuff.
Right. So you're bringing something very real here, right?
Okay.
Because again, all of us have lives, right? Like
Right.
he's dealing with things in his life, and yet he also is wanting a relationship, it sounds like. And so
Yeah.
this is how dating really works for people, right? That their life happens, life comes up, things are a little messy, and we have
Yeah.
to kind of navigate these ups and downs and bumps in the road to find our way to, is this something that's actually meant to become my person and last a lifetime? And how do I figure that out? And
Yeah.
so I like that you said something here. So some of the challenges that you're having are in the texting, right?
Yes.
And I often encourage people to leave texting if possible for the logistics, right? Like where are we meeting, what time, those types of things. But for sharing your heart, that's much better done in by voice, right? And
Yes.
and and in person. And you did say in person he responds. So you've kind of answered that own question for yourself, right? In person, he responds, by text less so. And so the other thing I want to offer here is that when things are not going well, right? When you're not getting the response that you want, when you are wanting to express that you miss him, for example, and you're not sure how he's going to receive that, make sure that before you do that, that you're truly centered in your value, Amber. And you know what I mean by this because you went through the Calling in the One program with me. So make
Yeah.
sure that you're centered in your true, authentic value before you communicate that thing you don't know how he's going to respond to, right? Because
Right.
it makes
Right.
all the difference. Because if you instead show up in he's pulling away. I got to convince him. I've got to prove to him. Then that's going to pull you back into the needy energy. It's going to
Yeah.
pull you back into that performance energy. It's going to pull you back into the overfunctioning energy. And that will then set it up to not go well,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so this is your work to do, right?
Yeah.
And then making a request of him. So I miss you, could be just seen as like, I'm thinking about you, you know? And
Yeah.
oh, that's so nice and warm and fuzzy. It makes my heart feel good, right? I mean, maybe he feels that way. We don't know, right? We don't want to have assumptions here. But
Right.
I would consider, what's the request that you want of him? And it sounds like you've been doing good by making some requests for more connection, and he responds when you do. And so that's a hint for you that this man actually responds when you make a request of him.
Yeah.
And so you might consider, what is the request that I would like of him? And do it, and do it. Make sure that you're centered in your value when you make the request, right? Where
Okay.
I am worthy of a great man, whether it's this man or someone better. I am deeply worthy of a great man, and that man is on his way to me right now. I'm just figuring out if it's this man. That's
Yeah.
all that I'm doing here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then see how he responds.
Yeah.
Is that helpful, Amber?
It is. It is very helpful. I will also say one more thing that I've noticed is that if he doesn't, sometimes he doesn't respond right away and it takes a few days and, you know, it does trigger that abandonment wound. And
Yeah.
I recognize that because because of the distance sometimes with my trust issues with men, I go to that place where I'm like, I hope he's not seeing someone else, but he always gets back to me. It might just take him a few days,
Mm.
but it's hard. That's something that I've been having to deal with a little bit and
Yeah.
recognize. Yeah.
And that's your work, right? To do that,
Yes.
to get yourself centered so that you're not getting reactive and you're not then pulling more on him and then showing up in a weird energy the next time you do talk to him, right?
Yeah.
That because
Yeah.
that's the type of energy that's going to cause it to start to fall apart,
Right.
right?
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing, Amber. I think that that was so helpful for so many people on the call to see it in real time, right? Thank you,
Yeah.
Amber, for
Thank you.
sharing.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
All right. So let us know in the chat, was that helpful to see that and to see Amber's experience here? Let us know in the chat. All right. So if this is resonating for you, what we're talking about here today, remember that what I really want you to take away from today, and thank you for staying on for those of you who are still on the call with me. I know we've gone over, we had a wonderful share here from Amber that I just felt was so valuable to share with you. What I really want you to take away from today, though, is this. You don't need to do more processing of your patterns or more insight. Instead, what you need is support to see this in real time and to do something differently when the pattern is happening. Now, some people are at the point where they're ready to do this differently, and some people are ready for that. And both are completely valid. And yet, if you're the kind of person who knows that you're not meant to keep repeating the same experience in love, then this is the space to shift that. So we start next Wednesday, April 29th. It's a very small group intentionally so that there's support. And since there are just a few of you here live, if you're considering this, I'm really happy to stay on the call here after we end and to talk it through with you if that would help you. Or you could also just send me a message after this, and I'm happy to help you work through it that way if that would make more sense for you. But if this is resonating, I would encourage you to not just think about it, but decide. Decide what you want for your future and make a conscious decision. And so I will leave you with that for today. All right, I'm going to put the link into the chat one more time for those of you who want to have that handy. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you for your presence, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.